Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So it seems like there is a chance we might be saying goodbye and good riddance to an issue that has been plaguing the trucking industry for years now. I'm talking about chameleon carriers. Finally, there is some update and some movement on how the FMCSA is going to be dealing with the chameleon carrier issue, and honestly, I am all for it. So let's chat about it. Ready? Let's go. So I know that most of you are familiar with the term chameleon carrier, but there might be someone who is not familiar. So what is this? Well, let's imagine there is a trucking company called ABC Trucking that opened their authority or got their authority in January of 2024. They're operating, and a year later, the FMCSA deems them to be a danger to the public because of the kinds of violations they're racking up, and the FMCSA shuts them down. Or perhaps the violations are really, really high and this carrier has a very hard time booking freight, so they shut down their company. And then the next day, another carrier pops up with the same trucks, with the same fleet. It might have a different address, it might have a different phone number and email, it even might have a different officer, but at the core, it is operated by the same people who shut down the company that had those violations or who were shut down by the FMCSA. So why is this an issue? Well, let's look at the two cases. Let's say the FMCSA shuts down a carrier because they deem them to be a safety issue, right? So if that carrier gets shut down, but the next day opens up a new company and continues operating, yeah, that becomes a safety issue because nothing really changed except for the company name, the DOT and MC number. On top of it, we have situations where fraud, right? So a carrier might be racking up violations or freight guards or whatnot. They're not able to work because of the fraud that they are committing. And it makes it easy for them to just shut down the company with the bad record and open up as a new company and continue with the fraudulent activity. Now, before we actually go into what the FMCSA is planning to do about those chameleon carriers, I want to show you a couple of pretty interesting examples that I have found. So here we have a carrier called RIDDANCE Express Inc. Now I had to blank out the address because of YouTube's policies, but let me show you something. So on search carriers, if you look them up, RIDDANCE Express is connected to two other entities by mailing address as well as physical address. Now I know you can't see the actual address here, but it's down to the apartment number, right? The apartment number matches. Now those two companies are Deep Global LLC and Band2 Trans Inc. Again, literally the same address and apartment number. All right, example number 2, DBG Freight Inc. Again, I have to block out the address, but yes, this is a company that started in 2023, not a great out of service percentage rate. And based on the mailing address and the physical address, they're also connected to Nanglia Transport Inc. Same exact address again. And the company, the Nanglia Transport, was started in January of 2025 and already has an out-of-service order for drivers of 100%. And then there are those carriers who, for lack of a better word, don't even care about becoming a chameleon carrier, right? Because the enforcement is so crappy in this industry that it allows these kinds of people to continue operating. Let's take a look. This photo was taken and sent to me in the beginning of November of 2025. So you can see this is a truck. If you look in the side view mirror, you'll see a trailer attached. Now, this is very interesting. So pay attention to the DOT number. I'm going to leave it up right here. The reason it is interesting is because they were actually put out of service by the FMCSA. Their authority was revoked twice, once in February of 2023, the second time in May of 2025. Now, what's more interesting, their MC is inactive. To top it off, their DOT is inactive. Yet November 2025, beginning of November, I was sent the photo showing 6 months later, after this company was shut down by the FMCSA the second time, they are operating and they are hauling something. Now, how this happens, I have no idea. I don't know where they get their loads. However, this company is connected to a brokerage as well, a brokerage that I have never heard of, but it is possible that the brokerage is kind of feeding those loads to its own other company that doesn't even have authority to operate. So now for the fix. Recently, an internal memo for the Department of Transportation was leaked that could help this industry out. So I am showing you the memo here, and let's go through the important parts. It states, the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Research and Technology recommends that the United States Department of Transportation adopt a data-driven severity risk matrix that can identify and disrupt chameleon carriers and other high-risk operators hiding within the FMCSA's registration system. An analysis of safer data reveals behavioral patterns that mirror the tactics used by high-risk carriers attempting to disguise operational identity: shared addresses, rapid turnover of DOT registrations, duplicate phone numbers and email addresses, inconsistent fleet reporting, and clusters of newly formed entities concentrated around known commercial corridors all reflect a coordinated strategy to evade oversight. And then at the bottom it says, after integrating these indicators into a data-driven severity matrix, the US DOT can quantify fraudulent behavior at a scale and prioritize enforcement against the operators most likely to hide behind newly created identities. In short, as FreightWaves states, it outlines a plan to build a data-driven severity matrix, basically a risk score, that identifies carriers whose behavior suggests that they're hiding behind new DOT numbers. FreightWaves continues to explain that they will likely collect data points linked to fraudulent identity changes, feed them into the scoring model, and then prioritize audits, investigations, and enforcement on carriers who are deemed high risk by that same model. But then FreightWaves goes to explain that, of course, there might be some effects on those small, honest carriers as well. Number one, more verification when applying for authority. Number two, more cross-checking of data if addresses or emails appear suspicious. Number three, delays if your company resembles others in the same location. Number four, additional steps if you lease equipment or share a yard with other carriers. Number five, enforcement outreach if your profile matches a known risk pattern. Now, FreightWaves does mention that there are legal ways carriers operate where they do share yards, and it seems like there are a ton of carriers at the same address, so the FMCSA has to be very careful with how they enforce it. Now, the question is, how quickly will they start to implement this system and implement this change? And I say the sooner the better, because chameleon carriers are a really big problem in this industry. And FreightWaves actually mentions the ways that these chameleon carriers end up hurting smaller carriers in this industry. Number one, they drive down rates. Number two, safety issues. Of course, this is a very big one. Number three, they raise insurance premiums for everyone. And I have my personal story, right, with the crash that happened where someone hit our truck that was a chameleon carrier. And as I said, the amount of money their insurance had to pay us is much more than the amount of money that insurance got paid, because they were in business only for like a month before they hit us. Number four, of course, they ruined the trust with brokers and shippers for everybody, because a lot of chameleon carriers might be involved in fraud, and that creates a trust issue. And finally, they undercut carriers who are operating in an honest manner. So needless to say, I was very excited to find out about this internal memo. I'm very excited to see this materialize because, as I said already, chameleon carriers pose a very big problem to the trucking industry. What do you guys think? I would be curious to hear your thoughts on this. Anyway, wishing you all a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning. And if I don't see you before that, happy Thanksgiving to all.